Hello, all you Ascenders out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today we're going to recap and discuss Star Trek DS9, Season 5, Episode 9, The Ascent. Which, when I was doing research for an alternate title, I found out is the title of a mountain climbing movie that came out just 2 years before this.
Suspicious.
That made me pretty suspicious.
Maybe Ira Stephen Bear was watching that. Although that is, the notes do indicate that this is based on something, but it's not that.
Oh, okay.
Like it's one of those things where it's like Ira Stephen Bear based this on this other thing.
Sure.
It wasn't that.
It's an Ira Stephen Bear episode, so that's kind of what was making me doubly suspicious.
Yeah. But also, when you said, like, hello, all you Ascenders out there, despite the fact that this episode is about an ascent and called The Ascent, my first thought went to, I just finished rewatching a Lower Deck Season 1 episode where a guy is trying to, like, ascend to a higher, plane of being or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? Oh, right.
But yeah, I couldn't find any good mountain climbing puns, so I'm gonna have to grab the low-hanging fruit for alternate title of The Nog Couple.
No, that's good. Okay.
Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode, but proceed at your own risk. All spoilers for everything else may happen.
Including that movie, The Ascent.
Right. I haven't seen it, but we might as well spoil it. I assume somebody gets to the top of the mountain or something, I don't know.
1977 black and white Soviet drama.
Well, there's a 1994 one.
Yeah, see, I thought you said 1994, and I'm like, so this can't be the right one. The first thing that
Right.
comes up when I search for Ascent film, that can't be it. Let's. Why is the Soviet movie the first one that comes up? Okay, the Ascent 1994 film. A war adventure film. An adaptation of a memoir by an Italian prisoner of war in 1942 British East Africa.
Ooh.
Who challenges his English captor in a climb to Mount Kenya. So, wait, you have a POW? And he's like, hey, bet I can climb that mountain faster than you.
Might as well, I guess. What else are you going to do? Well, what happens at the end? We got to spoil it.
Oh, okay, so hold on.
Who wins the race up the mountain or whatever?
Mount Kenya, one of the most difficult in the world to climb. The camp is staffed by African subjects overseen by a few British soldiers and their commander, David Farrell, who lost both his wife and child to the war. Oh, so one of the prisoners is his nemesis, Franco Di Stassi, a world-class climber who has attempted escape 5 times. And so his 6th attempt is a success, and he steals a Jeep.
Was there a Jeep on top of the mountain?
Okay, so hold on. No, this is at the camp that's, like, I guess right near the mountain. The POW camp. And so they catch him, and when they catch him, he taunts the major about his failure to conquer the mountain. So I guess that's when they decide that they're going to go up the mountain. Sometimes catching a glimpse of the major across the canyons. At night they engage in shouted banter with one another, inflaming the major's envy of Franco's mountaineering skill. At the summit, the major has Franco in his sights and implores him to halt. Franco buries the flag and surrenders, returning to camp a hero. So the prisoner, an expert mountain climber, beats the amateur mountain climber at climbing the mountain, and then goes back to the prison camp.
What a twist. Anyway, this is The Ascent, originally aired on November 25th, 1996. It was written by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolfe, and directed by Alan Croker. And Sarah Clofton is in this episode.
He totally is in this episode, it's true.
And we start with him. We start with Jake Sisko throwing clothes and things haphazardly into a suitcase while he and his dad discuss his upcoming move, which is not a few doors away, as Ben originally thought, but all the way across the habitat ring. And, okay, this confused me because their room seems to be at the end of a corridor. How is the habitat ring laid out?
Yeah, I don't. I don't know.
I thought there was just like one big central hallway and like it looped around, but maybe there's like branching off hallways that go. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends on like how thick the habitat ring is,
Yeah.
compared to a person or a room. But
Anyway.
I also like that they foreshadow the upcoming odd couple situation by showing how messily Jake packs, despite the fact that has never been a character trait that he's had before now.
This is a brand new thing we're learning about Jake. Although Ben calls it a phase, so...
Oh yeah, so it could be relatively new.
But I guess single occupancy is not allowed because Jake is moving in with Nog, who we later learn is coming back from the academy for a work-study type thing.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Rom is excitedly preparing for Nog's return when his doorbell rings. To his disappointment, it's Quark, who brought some welcome home root beer for Nog, which Quark hates, but Rom breaks open a bottle to enjoy himself.
Disgusting Quark even further.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how dare you drink that? So, is the idea that Nog is going to ring the bell at his own quarters? I don't... Like, Rom is continually disappointed when the bell rings and it's not Nog.
Right. He's excited. It's okay. Then the doorbell rings again. This time it's Odo, who declares that a Federation grand jury wants to talk to Quark. So Odo arrests Quark, or something, revealing that he's personally going to bring Quark to Inferna Prime for the joy of watching him finally be brought to justice.
And apparently, this grand jury convenes really far away.
I know. Maybe, the Orion Syndicate is just all over the place. It's like they're not gonna do a grand jury just really close to one witness.
Maybe, yeah.
But I just wonder, is Odo's real motivation to see Quark punished, or is he just going to keep an eye on Quark and make sure that nothing untoward happens to him?
I feel like it might be... My real guess is Odo really wanted them to tell him what they were calling in Quark for, and they refused. So he's like, I'm going to find out, even if it means going there myself.
Okay, that's all. I think that's also plausible.
Oh, okay. So I brought up, there's an image that they have from, I don't know what episode this image is from, that shows where Inferna Prime is in comparison to other things. It is like real near Memory Alpha, it looks like here.
Oh.
And near some other systems that I don't know. Well, Vega. I don't know Vega in the Star Trek context. I remember from like Contact.
Right.
But
that's where the Contact aliens are from.
Well, that's where they're like forwarding their message through, because...
Oh, true, yeah.
Vega's too young for that.
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
So Odo drags Quark away and Rom goes back to enjoying his root beer. And so I think let's go through the B plot first, and then we'll just go back to the main plot. Because they're completely separate except for that one little incident. Anyway, Cadet Nog reports for duty in Sisko's office, and Nog promises the captain that he will set a good example for Jake and keep him out of trouble. Ben says, "You inspire me with confidence," which Nog really takes to heart.
Yeah, I'm like, so does Ferengi not understand sarcasm, or?
I also like when Sisko tosses him the baseball and Nog is like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, Sisko like rolls it across the desk, but I was legitimately wondering, because he hands him back the baseball at the end, which I thought was a little bit awkward, but I was like, what is the expectation for Nog to do with this baseball? Clearly he's not supposed to keep it. It seems disrespectful to roll it back. So I'm just like, what would be the move here?
Yeah, at the end he like holds out his hand. He's like, It's like, give me that back. That is a magical baseball that got dreamed up out by a being from another dimension or something.
Yep.
Anyway, on his way out of the office, Nog has a little chat with Kira in her only appearance in this episode.
Yeah, and her hair looks weird. I mean, I think we haven't seen her for a little bit, but
we saw her at the end of last episode.
Okay.
When she came in and finger wagged at Odo for a little bit.
That's true. I'd forgotten that.
I assume she's just like on maternity leave, and she comes in like one day a week or something and shoots one scene and leaves.
Yeah, something like that.
Nog and Jake go to check out their new quarters, which are pretty darn spacious.
Yeah.
I think I've had several apartments that are smaller than this. Jake is excited for the fun to begin, but Nog is excited for the cleaning and strictly regimented military-style living routine to begin.
Both good.
Don't forget, we're going to the gym at 0430, says Nog. Which,
despite never having said that before. It's like, don't forget this thing that I didn't tell you until just now.
Right? Don't forget it after I tell you right now.
Yeah.
But if somebody tells me that, it's just like, goodbye.
We are not living the same life, you and I, other guy. So
Right.
It's best if we part ways now.
Then Nog makes fun of Jake's muscles, which is rich because the only person on the whole station with skinnier arms than Jake is Nog.
Oh, but just secretly under that cadet's uniform, Nog is ripped. You just don't know.
Oh, okay. Sometime later, Jake wakes up to find Nog working out, but he wants none of it. And what's up with these weights? Do you like turn it and it like does a different amount of weight or something?
Yes, I think that is the thing. I'm pretty sure it's popped up elsewhere.
Okay.
But also, it's weird to me because I was like, oh, so I guess that they work out in their quarters. They have, this like, but then later it's like, hey, you want to go to the gym? And I was like, So wait, was that not in your quarters? Did Jake wake up and then go to the gym to walk past you and be like, nah, I'm not working out? I don't.
I think Nog goes to the gym and then he comes home and he does more working out. That's the only explanation I can think of. And then also Jake gets upset to find out that Nog did some unsolicited copy editing of one of his stories.
A story called Past Prologue, which is the name of an episode of the show.
That's the second episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the one with Kira's terrorist friend.
So I'm torn because on the one hand, I'm like, if you had that many grammar and punctuation corrections that were needed, maybe it was a good thing that he helped you out. But on the other hand, I mean, you don't change a writer's words without permission.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Like, if he needs that, he'll ask for it. Later, Nog comes home from work and sees that Jake is lounging around, and the quarters are quite messy. Like, bafflingly messy if they were just cleaned 9 hours ago.
It is so confusing that he's like, I'm just living my life. And it's all clothing.
Uh-huh.
So how many times did you change clothes while laying around the living area of your place, Jake? I'm not following how this is possible.
I just imagine he was probably doing one of those, like, clothes try-on montages.
for his Instagram or something.
Right. Yeah, he's got, like, a bunch of new outfits. I don't know. And he's like, you know what? I'll wear the same thing I always wear.
Yeah. After trying on 15 different things, he's like, you know what? I'll go back to what I started in.
He's really doing this, like, vest look a lot.
I mean, I don't hate
it. Nog wants to clean, but Jake is busy writing or playing computerized Domjot as part of his writing process. Or just goofing off. I don't know. But they get into an argument of, you're too messy. Well, you're too not messy. And then Nog decides to move out. In the Replomat, Ben Sisko is enjoying a coffee or something, and Rom walks in, grabs a large snail juice extra shells, and joins him. Rom is like, I noticed that Nog has been acting like kind of a dick lately, so I did a changeling check. Look at this blood that I stole.
I stole his blood while he was asleep, and I've been jiggling it for hours and nothing has happened yet, so...
It's like, how long until it turns into changeling? They commiserate over their children being too uptight and not uptight enough, and wish they could have an influence on each other to get some kind of Goldilocks level for both of them. They sip their drinks and try to think up a solution. At some point, Ben realizes that as Jake's father and Nog's commanding officer and the station commander, there's a pretty easy fix.
He just tells them to do what he says, and they have to do it.
He shows up at Jake's quarters and is like, you can't live here anymore by yourself. This is a double. And then here's Nog. You two live together now.
I was hoping for one of the solutions, like where they get accused of robbing the Tholian ambassador and thrown in jail again. But Odo isn't here, so I guess you can't do that.
Yep. No, they're too savvy to that now, so... Then Jake and Nog show that they're willing to adapt their behavior, and then they go off to play some Domjot.
The end.
The end of that story.
Right.
So okay, back to the what I guess is the A story.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fair to say that the non-Jake and Nog story is always the A story.
Yeah, I'm trying to... unless you count The Visitor...
Sure.
Which is mostly Jake, but some Nog.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a Jake focused episode. It wasn't a Jake and Nog shenanigans episode. There's a subtle difference.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, aboard the runabout on their week-long journey to Inferna Prime, Quark proposes killing time by playing cards, but Odo isn't interested. Quark is upset that becoming human hasn't made Odo lighten up, but Odo's like, whatever, I'm reading.
Yeah, go away. Apparently, the game that he offers to teach Odo is Fizzbin, which was invented by James T. Kirk in the original series episode A Piece of the Action.
Ooh, deep cut.
So it's caught on since since the year 2268.
Or Quark is just a really he's a game enthusiast.
Yeah, it could be.
But Quark takes a look at Odo's reading material, which turns out to be some kind of pirate romance or something. Quark teases Odo about it, but Odo is like, I don't care. I'm just happy to get to see you go to prison.
I do like he's like, I mean, I've got, if you're interested in this kind of thing, I'll hook you up with Vulcan Love Slave 2 or whatever.
Right. He's got a first edition.
Yeah, and I'm just... Every time it comes up, I'm like, what is this program like? I mean, obviously, but it's like, why is it Vulcan? Is the Vulcan? I guess the Vulcan is the slave,
right?
Why is a Vulcan better to be a slave than any other of the various species available?
I mean, you just it's part of the story. Vulcans are so logical. So, what if you had one as a love slave? It almost writes itself.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, a few days later, Quark is clearly bored out of his mind and annoyed by every single noise. Odo's lip smacking. And what the heck is that buzzing? And I love all of Odo's like...
He's just taking such pleasure in being a jerk.
Although it's a little awkward watching him try to eat through his prosthetics. But...
Right, yeah, I could tell that it was not easy.
But Quark uses his super ears to track the buzz to a panel in the floor. They open the panel to reveal a bomb. And at first I was like, where's the bomb in there? And then,
it's that thing that looks like a spider.
Yeah, they zoom in on it real close. Oh, there's the bomb. Okay. I was like, is the big glowy yellow thing the bomb? Or...
No, see, I know because there was a card in the card game called Orion Syndicate Bomb that was that exact picture. So, it was a dilemma.
So, do you have to have transporter skill to get rid of it or something like that?
All right, let's find out.
Let's find out.
Orion Syndicate Bomb, a rules of acquisition space dilemma. I guess you can't have that on a planet. Mm. Damages ship unless transporter skill or any Orion Syndicate personnel present. So I guess if somebody works for the Syndicate, they know how to defuse the bomb.
Sure. Yeah, they know where the off button is. So makes sense. But they decided to beam the bomb out, even if that would risk setting it off. Unfortunately, neither of them has transporter skill, so it sets it off.
Well, not only that, but they both stand super close to it while it's potentially about to go off, which I was like, wouldn't you want to be as far away as possible just in case?
Yeah, they probably should have thought of that, but it's okay. But they start losing life support, and they have to land ASAP. Luckily, Odo finds a barely habitable planet to set down on.
L-Class.
Oh my gosh. We've talked about L-Class before, right? It's like one before M.
Yeah.
As they land, Quark mentions that the bomb was probably set by the Orion Syndicate, setting off an argument of who should have told who what about what was going on.
Mm.
But I feel like neither one of them really had enough information to share. So
I don't know, because I guess Quark knew. That's the thing. It's like Quark gets called into the grand jury. And he's just like, what for? What's the charge? And Odo's like, I'm not going to tell you. Which seems illegal to me, but whatever. Right. Quark seems aware that it's a situation involving him testifying against the Orion Syndicate. Or he makes that guess. Like, I feel like if you are a person who the Federation Grand Jury is going to have testify against the Orion Syndicate, you would know this ahead of time. You would be expecting it. So so I was like, oh, maybe he's just letting Odo like ham it up so that when the time comes and he reveals what it's actually about, it'll be that much, like, he'll get to see the look on Odo's face when he doesn't, when I don't have to go to jail. It'll be hilarious to see how Odo reacts. But then Odo has the very good point of, well, if I'd known that the Orion Syndicate was involved here, then there would have been a lot more protection.
Right.
And Quark's like, well, you were supposed to protect me. And he's like, well, I had no idea what I was protecting you from. So and Quark is surprised that Odo doesn't know. So it doesn't seem like it can be what I said, where it's like, oh, Quark's like keeping it secret to like shove it in Odo's face, because he thinks that Odo knows. But if Odo knows the truth, then he wouldn't be having that attitude of, oh man, I'm going to see you get what's coming to you.
Right.
So it doesn't really make any sense when you think about it, as far as I can tell.
Also, if Quark knows, why doesn't he be like, whoa, we're just going on this one little runabout?
Yes, like, and that's, I'm glad because that's what I was getting to, was you're like, neither of them had enough information, but I'm like, well, if Quark knows what he's doing, then he should have had enough information to be like, we need more protection than this.
I think the only solution is that Quark didn't know, and he didn't realize it until he saw that bomb. But
so maybe he thought some scam that he had run had finally caught up with him for real.
Right.
And then he's like, oh, it's that thing where I'm supposed to testify against the Orion Syndicate. Yeah, I probably should have figured that out.
And I think grand juries do that all the time, where they just like call people and be like, just show up, and they don't say what it's about. So
maybe.
I don't know how the legal system in the Federation works, but
apparently it's really just full of holes.
Yeah. Anyway, they hit the ground, and Quark regains consciousness for Odo to reveal to him the bad news that the comm system was damaged, and the only food they have is 2 Pop-Tarts.
It's given that, the inside of the runabout doesn't look that bad, considering all of the various things that were apparently destroyed in the explosion. It's like, oh yeah, we lost all of the stuff.
You know how hard it is to like rig up all that damage on the set and then put it back later? Let's just not mess with that.
But it's like in what I assume were different parts of the shuttle too. Like, the rations were in one place, but it couldn't have been the same place as that survival suit, because otherwise Odo would have seen the survival suit when he found the rations. So it's like, oh yeah, all but 2 rations were destroyed in one part of the shuttle, and then all but 1 survival suit was destroyed in a different part of the shuttle.
Yeah, I think there's a nitpick of the week in here somewhere. I don't know exactly where. Because I thought the exact same thing. It was like, wait, when you were checking around for rations, you didn't find the survival suits? But whatever. So Odo gets to work trying to see if he can fix anything, but Quark comes up with a plan. He's found that the signal booster on the subspace transmitter is broken, so they won't be able to transmit through the atmosphere, but if they get to higher ground, they might have a shot. And hey, look, there's a mountain right over there.
It's like, how high? About that high.
It reminded me of that shot from The Simpsons when he's like, there's the mountain. Yep, that one right next to that one you're looking at. Yep, just one more mountain to the right.
But it's hilarious that apparently that was exactly the right height. Like,
yeah,
Quark,
apparently.
I don't know if Quark was really doing math or pretending to do math in his head, and then he was like, yeah, about that high. So if he'd been a little off, if it'd been a little higher than that, then they would have been pretty screwed.
I'm pretty sure he was just like being a jerk. Because he was like, yeah, take the square root times pi. And he's like, look, there's a high mountain. We got to take it up the mountain. Like,
that's as high as we're going to get. So let's just do that.
So Quark finds the fancy looking survival suit in the back, but there's only one. But I guess they come up with a plan to take turns where one person wears the jacket and one person wears the trousers and carries the big heavy transmitter on their back. Odo laments that he can't just shapeshift and fly the transmitter up the mountain. And Quark says, well, then you shouldn't have wished to become solid. And Quark is like, or Odo's like, that's not what happened. I didn't ask a genie to turn me into a solid.
You found a genie, right? Like, that's the story I heard.
Quark trips and falls down for a second, and Odo is worried, which he plays off as concern for the transmitter. Apparently, 3 days later, they're still climbing. Quark looks for yummy beetles, but they all turn out to be stones.
As often happens, yep.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh, is that a beetle I can eat? So anyway, Quark is close to losing hope. But Odo is like, don't worry, we're getting close. But then they make it to a ridge with a view and see that they are not getting close.
He seems so certain. He's like, yeah, probably like 6 hours.
Uh-huh.
Quark's like, okay, I can do 6 hours. And it's like, oh, never mind.
Also, Odo says something about it taking hours to set up the transmitter, which I guess is supposed to ward off questions of why don't they just try the transmitter every few minutes? But also, why don't they just turn it on while they carry it? Maybe it's got like a battery or something. I don't know.
I figured that they were just like, was there not a scene where they're like, nope, we're still not high enough?
There was, but I swear before that, Odo, because he's like, when we get to the top, how long will it take to set up the transmitter? And he's like, 6 more hours or something like that. I could be wrong. So Quark miserably counts steps on the downslope, knowing that they'll have to make them all back up when they get to the mountain.
Except then he keeps counting steps when the slope goes up slightly. And I was like, no.
That's not how it works. Odo can't wait to see the Quark thrown in prison, but Quark bursts that bubble by saying that he's not in the Orion Syndicate, he's just being called as a witness. So again, he seems pretty sure about this, so what he knows is still very hard to suss out. He knows people who know people who know people. So
on this climb, the outdoor scenes are filmed at Mount Whitney in Central California, a 14,500 foot mountain.
Okay.
The crew stayed in Lone Pine, and the line where Odo's like, how can it be so cold when the sun is shining, was added on set because of the excellent weather during production, because it was supposed to be freezing cold, but in reality the temperature was about 65 Fahrenheit.
Nice.
And so shooting became extremely uncomfortable, because they had to wear all this stuff and try to make it look colder than it really was. And so the director of photography used a really wide lens and a filter to give the film an icy look. And then in the evenings, he used a neutralizing filter to tone down the orangeness of the setting sun.
Okay. So, gotta use some tricks to make that nice, pleasant park look cold and miserable.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Odo deduces that Quark must have tried to get into the Orion Syndicate, but he couldn't afford it because he's too small time. Well, counters Quark, who's the bigger loser? The loser criminal or the loser cop who can't catch him?
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yep. Later, Odo wakes up from arrest to find that Quark is dead. Oh, wait, no, he's not. But he is going deaf, and they're down to crumbs on their Pop-Tarts. Which they must have just been rationing those things.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 days later, they really have.
As they start their climb again, they drag back out the argument of who should have told whom what and who knew about the Orion Syndicate situation, etc. Then they get into a big name-calling match, which ends with them tussling and rolling down the mountain. Odo takes a look at his leg and finds that it is quite broken.
Yep, pretty broken.
I'm not a doctor, but I feel pretty confident that leg was broken.
These guys, I mean, they've never liked each other, and they're in this hard situation, but it's like, you don't wrestle around on the mountain.
Right. Especially with the big old thing on your back. Just don't do it. So Quark makes Odo a splint and a stretcher to carry him up the mountain. Odo says to just leave him and come back later, but Quark wants him for emergency rations in case he dies.
And I like that it's never completely clear whether that's a rib or not.
I think he's trying to be a little heroic, but yeah.
Also, the stretcher, apparently in the script, it's very specific that it is a travois.
Oh, okay.
Travois. And because that popped up in the summary on Memory Alpha, and I was like, wait, what's that? And so it's like, no, that's in the script. That's what it says.
All right.
A type of which means a type of sledge formerly used by North American Indians, especially of the Great Plains, to carry goods, consisting of 2 joined poles pulled by a horse or dog.
Sure. Pretty good thing to make in a situation like that.
Yeah,
I guess. But yeah, at some point, I guess they do the procedure of trying the transmitter, but it doesn't work. So Quark continues his quest up the mountain, dragging Odo behind him until he can't move. And then Odo's like, okay, I'll just push it up the mountain myself on my belly. But that doesn't last very long. Quark is ready to accept his fate, but then he realizes, if he dies, Rom will get the bar. And Nog will be totally corrupted by the horrible Federation. And I'm sure there will be root beer all over the place.
Yeah, the root beer will flow free.
At that horrible thought, he takes the transmitter and slowly drags it up the mountain, leaving Odo below.
But also, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be embarrassed by like broken-legged Odo's dead body being found further up the mountain than his.
After a while, Odo decides that Quark must be dead and begins recording his last wishes. So he wants to just be cremated and put in his bucket and shot through the wormhole. But suddenly, he starts to transport and finds himself aboard the Defiant, being checked by Dr. Bashir. Worf and Dax are also there, so they can be in this episode.
Yeah, very important.
They tell Odo that Quark made it to the top of the mountain and saved them both. Odo is horrified that he now owes his life to Quark. He's taken to the sick bay and placed next to Quark, and the two reaffirm their hatred for each other and laugh.
It is a great moment. It's like, all that stuff I said, I meant every word. I hate you.
It's like, oh yeah. If that experience taught me anything, it's that the hate is real.
More fun facts about shooting on location.
Okay.
Apparently, something about the pressure differential, up on this mountain, made the Quark prosthetics a bad situation, and Shimmerman almost passes out from the pressure inside the Quark head.
Oh no.
And so they thought they might have to squash the whole episode because he wasn't going to be able to do the work up there. But then the on-set medic had prepared for altitude reactions and was able to ensure that Shimmerman could shoot. And so Shimmerman is quoted as saying, "The medic is the hero of that episode."
Nice. But how did he do that?
Yeah, it doesn't say. I don't know.
Did he give him drugs or something?
It does kind of sound like that. In my mind, it's just drill some holes inside the ears to relieve the pressure inside the Quark prosthetic, and we're good.
Mm. So, okay, I guess, so they put the prosthetic on, further down, and then they drove up the mountain with it or something.
I guess, yeah.
And this also brings up a question I've had about the Ferengi prosthetics for a long time, which is, are the bumps on their head supposed to be bone? Because every time they someone hits a Ferengi on the head, it looks like foam.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that supposed to be their skull, or what's going on there?
I assume it is.
Oh.
Rene Auberjonois is quoted that he enjoyed filming on location because he said, yeah, it meant that at night afterwards we'd all go and have dinner together and hang out, which didn't usually happen.
Huh.
So that's nice. He also enjoyed getting this chance to work so closely with Armin. He says, it was great for us to really get to work together because he and I are very dear friends. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. The note about the origins of the episode, it's based on Ira Steven Bear's love for a particular play. What play do you think that this would be based on?
Let me think. Death of a Salesman.
That's actually not terribly far off. It's Waiting for Godot.
Uh-huh.
So, Bear always wanted to do an episode with Odo in the role of Vladimir and Quark in the role of Estragon.
Okay.
The problem being that the play has no discernible plot at all. It's just about two characters sitting and waiting for something undefined, which never arrives.
Right.
And they spend most of the play insulting one another. So, the only plot he could come up with was Odo and Quark waiting somewhere for Sisko to bring them a runabout, but they have no idea why or how long they've been there. Never got around to doing that episode, but when the writing staff decided to do a Quark and Odo getting into mortal danger somewhere story, he revived this idea, and they used it as the template for what the episode became.
Okay. So that would be kind of an interesting story, is just them sitting, and they don't know how they got there.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
But they know
All
that
right.
Sisko's coming to get them.
With a runabout, specifically. Yeah, just sitting around waiting for... Yeah, it's bizarre.
That might be a little too, like, artistic for Star Trek Deep Space Nine, but...
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like it's a little too on the nose with the waiting for Godot parallel at that point. Where they just call the episode Waiting for Sisko and be done.
Right. You might as well.
Let's see. Before this episode was even written, actors Renee Auberjonois and Armin Shimmerman, who played Odo and Quark respectively, were eager to learn more about the motivations behind their characters' relationship. As such, Shimmerman preempted the episode by stating, "Renee and I would like to learn their reasons for liking and hating each other, so we need to see them together for an entire episode. What would the result of that scenario be? Are they going to reach an understanding? Will their relationship improve or worsen?" It seems like the answer is stay exactly the same.
Yeah. That was one thing that really confused me about the episode is, like, you know, what parts were them genuinely, like, not liking each other, and what parts were them, like...
Pretending not to?
Yeah, just, you know, keeping up the act or whatever.
Yeah. Because as you pointed out, Odo has that moment of seeming really concerned about Quark, and then being like, "Oh, I was worried about the transmitter. Shut up."
All right.
A solid motivator for this episode was to deal with Odo's new status as a solid. Robert Hugh Wolf said, "We wanted to do an episode emphasizing his human frailty and showing the effects of him no longer being able to shapeshift. But we didn't want him to be fighting bad guys because we've done stuff like that already. We wanted to have him go somewhere that would have been easy for him to get to if he could morph. So we put him and Quark up against the elements and had them climb a mountain."
All right.
And the last note I have is that this is, in fact, the final episode to feature the Starfleet uniforms originally seen in the series premiere of Deep Space Nine. The final episode of this show. The people on Voyager will continue to wear it because apparently no one sends them the new patterns.
Right. Yeah, like... I remember that when it was like... the first time we saw a uniform, I think, was when the doctor went and met Andy Dick or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they had a conversation about uniforms in that episode.
Yeah, apparently they'd known for a while because the new uniforms that we'll see next week made their premiere in First Contact, and they'd known obviously that they were coming, but they wanted to hold off on showing them until the official premiere of First Contact.
Okay, so unlike at the beginning of Deep Space Nine, when they had the new uniforms that I guess were just for space stations.
Uh-huh.
Now everybody wears these new uniforms.
And if anything, it may be that the Enterprise got them first before the space station.
Oh yeah, could be.
I don't know.
But I'm sure we will talk about these uniforms again in the next episode. So
yeah, we'll get there.
Was that your last thing?
Yeah, that's all the notes from Memory Alpha on this one.
So okay, yeah, I have. I just have a couple quick comments. One is, why would you ever have a roommate if you didn't have to?
It's true.
But I guess, apparently, I don't know if this is real, that there were no single quarters available or something. I don't know.
Well, apparently there were some that Jake was going to get.
Uh-huh.
And then he decided to go for the bigger quarters, which required him to have the roommate, and then Nog was coming, so it worked out.
Well, but no, they were already going to be roommates.
Oh,
in that first scene.
Okay.
Because in that same conversation, Sisko was like, "Wow, Nog and Jake being roommates."
You're right. So yeah, I don't know.
But also, just like the runabout turnover recently has been so high. And if I had the energy, I would like do a full analysis, but
do we know what runabout this was?
I don't think they ever said. And it could be that they recovered it. I don't know. But yeah, they are just crashing runabouts left and right these days.
Let's see. Do we know anything about the runabout in this episode? No, doesn't look like we do.
Nah.
Okay.
So yeah, before we get into reviews, I guess we I think we need to start doing like a Dr. Bashir watch.
Okay.
For no particular reason. I just kind of...
Just generally speaking.
Yeah, what's up with that guy? Like, so, because, you know, last episode I felt like he was a little bit off his game. He didn't seem to actually have any medical knowledge. And we didn't see him very much in this episode. He seemed to kind of know what he was talking about, maybe, but I don't know. Let's keep an eye on that guy. So,
okay.
Just kind of, you know, when you got someone, you're like, you know, what's going on with that person? You know,
let's check in, make sure he's okay.
I'll invite him out for a beer or whatever, and kind of catch up.
I don't want to have a beer with Bashir. Let's get that out there.
But yeah, so I guess we can jump into reviews. What do you think of the Ascent?
Okay, so I had forgotten that this episode has the Jake and Nog B story.
I
actually enjoyed the Jake and Nog B story.
Oh, really?
It's one of those, like you pointed out, just one of those Jake and Nog shenanigan things.
And
there's not much depth to it, but I feel like there's something good about getting Nog back in general. I was like, I wonder if they had any trouble being like, because they basically wrote the actor off the show for the most part for, has it been 2 years now? And, or 1 year, however long it's been.
We saw him when they went to Starfleet Academy that one time, but
yeah, other than that. And so now they're kind of writing him back into the show, and I was like, did they have any trouble getting him back? Did they know when they wrote him off that they intended to have him come back? So they were like, just kind of stay available for a year, and we're going to bring you back in. So I'm kind of curious how that discussion actually went. Yeah. But I thought that was a fun little diversion, a fun little B story, although it's once again one of those that like has nothing to do with the A story, more or less. As far as the A story goes, this is one of those episodes for me when I think about the Quark and Odo climb a mountain episode. I don't remember the name of it when I think about it. I just remember that story.
Right.
It is one of those, like the story about the Jem'Hadar kid, that I just dread getting to in rewatches. I despise that. And I can't even put my finger on exactly what it is. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch their adventure climbing the mountain and yelling at each other and being stupid, just unbelievably stupid. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And on this rewatch, I was like, oh, it has this other little story that, like, for me, is like, okay, we're getting away from the unpleasantness that I would rather not be watching to go back to Jake and Nog being silly. I can get behind this. So that brought it up for me a little bit, actually. Although I don't think that, that's an exceptional story either by any stretch. Like I said, it's got very little depth to it. But it feels like a break from me being super unhappy in the other segment. So I'm going to give this a Lieutenant Junior grade.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I feel like I found both plots kind of tedious and not as fun as kind of the setup for either of them should have been. I don't know. I think it's just like if they were jokes, because that's like a really comedic thing, like do an Odd Couple with Jake and Nog. But first of all, it's like we're introducing two brand new character traits of Jake and Nog that we've never seen before. And also kind of I don't know. I felt like there was more opportunities for jokes that maybe could have happened. I don't know. But it was just kind of like doot, doot, doot. And then it was over. Mm-hmm. As for the mountain climbing, like I like any Odo Quark stuff. I always enjoy that relationship. I really liked the moment at the end when they like tell each other they hate each other and they start laughing or whatever. I felt like that little moment kind of like tied up the episode nicely. Yeah. Also, I thought the location looked pretty good. Got some production value in there with that location. But it's really straddling the line for me, I think. But I think it's just barely over the line.
Okay.
In the up direction. This work to get two enemies working together to survive thing, I mean, it's kind of a concept I like, but again, just like the Jake and Nog thing, I felt like they maybe didn't. It could have used maybe a punch up or whatever they call it in Hollywood. I don't know, but yeah, overall, I think I'm still going to give it a positive and call it a lieutenant commander.
Okay, well, cool.
Like, if it wasn't for that little moment at the end, I think it might have just sunk down below the line to lieutenant. But
you're right. It's a nice bow on that story.
Also, Paramount Plus now lets you skip the ad in front of the episode.
Oh my god.
And that put me in a good mood.
Yeah, how could it not?
Title review. What are our 3 criteria? I forgot.
I think there was
Relevance,
relevance,
memorableness,
and like cleverness or something.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What do we think about those 3?
I mean, it's relevant.
It's definitely relevant.
I don't know how you could get much more relevant, honestly, unless you could somehow incorporate the B story into the title as well. Yeah. I don't think it's very memorable.
Yeah.
I mean, if like I said, when I think of the episode, it's the Quark and Odo Climb a Mountain episode, and I don't remember what it's called. If you said The Ascent, I might be able to make the reverse connection and be like, oh, that's the one where they ascend. Okay, yeah.
Sure.
I don't think it's particularly clever. There's nothing that screams clever to me about this at all. It's not like a joke. It's not a pun. It's not like a reference, as far as I can tell, to anything else, unless it was to the 1994 movie somehow.
Right.
So, yeah.
They're trying to cash in on that. I think it's almost refreshingly direct.
Mm-hmm.
It's like The Ascent. I was like, you know what? It's not like a weird Bible quote or some artsy reference, or I mean, what are some of these weird, like, it's like Apocalypse Rising or something like that.
Yeah, it is very simply what the episode is about, and straightforward. So yeah, no, I agree that there's something compared to some of these other titles. There's something nice about that.
Yeah, but yeah, you are right. The memorableness is probably pretty low. It's no use talking about the mirror universe because none of these characters exist in the mirror universe. So
no, they're all either dead or never born. So yeah,
right. Odo, Quark, Nog, Rom, and Sisko are all dead.
All dead. Yep.
And Jake Sisko, unless my theory that he secretly exists, is not over there.
So, I mean, if there's a secret Jake Sisko out there, maybe he's a neat freak, and he did move in with somebody and had an odd couple situation. It was just unrelated to anything else.
Maybe he's a schizophrenic, and like one half of his personality is neat and one is messy. And we did Dr. Bashir watch. So, I mean, what's going on with Bashir? I mean, he looks okay.
Yeah.
So,
he seems happy.
Yeah, maybe we'll see some more of him next episode. I don't know. But unless you have anything else, I guess we can call it there.
No, I'm good.
All right. So, yeah. We thank you for joining us today. If you want to look at past episodes, you can do that wherever you watch or listen to this. If you want to leave comments, you can do that on YouTube. If you want to leave us a review, you can do that on Apple Podcasts. Nobody ever leaves us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if there's another place you'd like to listen, you can just let us know, and I'll see if we can get it put on there. But my name is Fletcher. I'm about to say goodbye. It's Data.
See ya.
We do look forward to seeing you for our next discussion. But remember, do not stand between me and the slug juice with extra shells.